Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Kenspire Business Mantra and to the episode number 19 on the tricky subject of Capex versus Opex. Friends, I said tricky subject. Don't worry. The purpose of this episode is to decode the two words Capex and Opex. Capex is nothing but capital expenditure and Opex is operational expenditure. In other words, any capital expenditure which we have already discussed in terms of investment in long term assets, any asset which is going to give the benefit beyond 1 year, which is long term asset, that is your plant, your machinery, your building, so on and so forth, that becomes capital expenditure. And any particular outflow or expenditure where the benefit is only within that particular financial year, it becomes an operational expenditure, OPEX. Right? Very simple. This is a simple definition. Now, what is important is planning for capital expenditure has to be very clearly separate, and planning for OPEX has to be very clear and separate. We already touched upon the importance of financial planning in the previous episode. So, in the financial planning in your project report, the capital expenditure has to be clearly depicted and long term funding should be there. Either it should be funded by own funds of the entrepreneur or from long term loans from bank or somebody else. It cannot be funded by short term funds, meaning one cannot take the working capital limit, working capital loan, which is normally a short term phenomena, and fund the long term assets. That is not a great thing to do. Similarly, when it comes to operational expenditure planning, it is important to clearly design the various elements of operational expenditure. It could be your direct cost, your indirect cost, and everything, and it needs to be properly budgeted and managed. And normally, operational expenditure means it is straight debit to your P&L account and as an expenditure. Whereas under CapEx, it will be going to your balance sheet as fixed asset. Only depreciation on those assets will come in into the P&L account as expenditure. Right. So critical point is how are you going to design your business in terms of CapEx and OPEX? Now, one of the points, very important points, a point I'm going to share with all of you is these days the trend is towards conserving cash and lowering the investment, which means even when creating plant, machinery, building, is it possible to go with OPEX model? How is it possible? Try and identify a landlord who will build a factory building for you with your design on long-term lease so that you go with lease payments for a period of time rather than investing completely on day one on the plant and machinery and building. Similarly, there are multiple options of leasing of machinery available these days where you don't have to invest upfront, where you pay over a period of 3 years or 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, the machine will become your own. So these kinds of lease arrangements will ease out your initial investment and you will become less capital intensive. But on the other side, your operational expenditure will go up and you have to earn much more than that. That planning is going to be very critical. From a tax point of view, you have to analyze this. From cash flow point of view, you have to go see which is better and then decide accordingly. Okay, so this planning of capital expenditure and operational expenditure is a critical factor and second step in the financial planning, which should be clearly on paper much before the commencement of business itself. Because this is going to decide the cash flow that is going to stay in the business, and the profitability will also be decided based on the decision on capex versus opex. So just to recap, your capital expenditure will give you only depreciation benefit, whereas your operational expenditure you can write off completely as complete expenditure in your P&L account. Right? So diligently analyze this and come to a conclusion as to what is the right strategy for your business. Right? This is a short episode on explaining this tricky subject of capex versus opex. Any queries, please address to this particular email ID. And always, I look forward to the feedback from you. So, like, subscribe, and comment to our channel always so that you get notified whenever a new episode is uploaded. So, till we meet once again, happy evening and goodbye.